It's the battle of the single cut. Round 1.
Fight!
When it comes to the battle of the single cuts, there's always a couple of contenders that always come out swinging, particularly in the guitar stores. That being the Gibson Les Paul and then the ESP/LTD Eclipse. Both guitars, I would say, are as iconic as each other, but for very different reasons. So in this video, I wanted to particularly put them kind of head to head to not only sort of show which one is right for yourself, but also, due to a little bit of experience with both, tell you why they're both actually quite similar in, certainly some parts of them, but also to tell you their differences as well and which camps they both really shine in. So as always, the video is split up to chapters if you want to check them out below, and you can also subscribe while you're down there, but let's just jump right in with the differences. So if we're not talking specs here, the biggest thing that I would say to customers, especially if they're in the store looking at both guitars, is there's one major difference between these two guitars, and you'll be able to tell just by holding them up at the side there. The ESP/LTD Eclipse, I'm just going to call it the Eclipse from now on as well, so just know that when I'm speaking about it, I am referring to pretty much the whole line, except one that I will mention as well. But the Eclipse model is notably thinner than your traditional Les Paul. What you usually find with that is because the Eclipse is it's a bit more catered to more of like the metal world, more the kind of hard rock world as well, but that doesn't sort of, completely rule it out from playing completely different genres. If we're looking just at that as a factor, that's going to really affect the weight of the guitar, so if you're going to be sitting with this on your shoulder, or standing with this on your shoulder, I should say, for a while, the Eclipse isn't going to be as back-breaking as the Les Paul. Now, that's not to say that you don't get weight-compensated Les Pauls as well, but traditionally, Les Pauls are a lot heavier than their Eclipse counterparts. Now, the other major difference that I will always mention to people as well is to do with the sound, and that is the pickups that are put into both of these guitars. Now, I'm taking this as quite a broad term as well, because with each line, there are a few different pickups that go into each of the guitars, but traditionally, what you'll find in a Les Paul are those kind of classic Gibson PAF style. Now, in this 50s AAA top here, this has got burst buckers in it, and they sound as Les Paul as you can really get. Whereas on the Eclipse side of things, now, traditionally, they will come loaded with active pickups, EMGs for many years. Sometimes you are seeing Fishman Fluences in them, which are another brand of active pickup as well. Again, a little bit more catered to kind of hard rock and metal, but let's hear them side by side, and you can make up your own mind. I don't know about you, but I think I preferred the EMG X pickups on the clean, which is actually a really surprise because I've always found like traditional EMGs just that quite like pokey and a bit too spiky on a clean channel. But these EMG X pickups are actually, they're a slightly lower output. Now that's not to say that you can't get a clean tone out of a Les Paul. It's ever so slightly different, isn't it? But say you put on the neck there, you roll off just the tone a little bit, you get these really nice kind of warm tones out of the Les Paul. Which of course, depending on the application that you need the guitar for, one might suit it better than the other. But while we're still on the differences of the guitars and in terms of preferences as well, one of the big differences with the ESP compared to the Les Paul here is actual neck shape and playability. Now they both go for the same radius, they both go for the same scale length. Now if you do want to read a little bit more into the specs as well, the links will be down in the description. In terms of neck shapes, that's where the kind of biggest thing, well certainly the biggest like feeling change comes with it. Because with this 50s Les Paul here, it's quite a chunky like baseball bat sort of like type neck, which means it's quite deep at the back here. It's very rounded. It does feel really good, but if you're not into big necks, then it's maybe not going to be your vibe. Whereas with the Eclipse, and certainly this is across the board with them as well, they are traditionally skinny. Like they're nice and like fast. They're kind of made, you know, again for kind of more hard rock and metal, but you will agree that the sounds you were getting out of those pickups you can handle in any sort of genre. But if you do prefer the skinnier neck, the Eclipse is the one for you. Now, of course, when it comes to build quality, there are quite a few factors that come into it. Now, the two guitars that I've chosen today, this is a USA custom shop ESP. So this is kind of the best of the best that you can really get with that. This is a standard, you know, still a USA made Gibson, but this is like their standard line. But of course, with both brands, you have the ability to go up, you have the ability to go down with them. Gibson have got Epiphone, ESP have got LTD, Gibson have got their custom shop, and as we've already mentioned, that this is a custom shop ESP here as well. So depending on like obviously what your budget is as well, there should be one of these models that does fit into that category. And across the board as well, obviously, you know, build quality is completely subjective depending on what level you go for, and of course, those custom shop guitars are just subjectively better than some of the other guitars as well, just because it's the best of the best when it comes to it. But one thing I do particularly love about both is that the kind of like ethos stays the same across the whole board. You know, you will get some Gibsons with some skinnier necks, obviously, on their Epiphones as well as the Gibsons as well. And you'll even get some Eclipses that are a bit fatter in the body as well, and that's, you know, across the whole board. So there is something that will fit for everybody. Now, of course, this just might be myself as well, but I always find like if I get like a Les Paul in my lap, it makes me play a certain type of way, and you can let me know if that happens to yourself in the comments as well down below. But what I'm going to do in this next section here is I'm just going to stick on the same sound for both guitars, because in all the previous sound sections there, I was playing kind of roughly the same thing for both with the same sound. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to stick the same sound on, and I'm just going to see what happens, you know, what the kind of guitar dictates me to play. Might be a bit rough and ready at the start just because, you know, I'll need to sort of find my way through it. I think this will be a kind of good test even just for myself. So I'm sure you will notice from the difference in playing there that I definitely kind of I felt a little bit more confident with the Eclipse here. Now that may be just to do with the neck shape, definitely it's helping. The body thinness as well is definitely, it's doing something to me just in terms of I'm feeling a little bit more confident, especially for trying those slightly speedier bits on here. And certainly those pickups as well, but yeah, again, I always feel when I've got a Les Paul on me, and again, this is completely just, I want to say that this is just my opinion on it as well, but it does feel like I need to play to the guitar with a Les Paul, whereas with something like this, and again, across the board on them, it's not just this model in my lap here as well, I do feel just that little bit more confident in the fact it can do what I want it to do. That may be slightly different for yourself, and you might feel right at home on a Les Paul and then maybe feel just, a little bit out of your depth with an Eclipse. But that's one of the things that I particularly love about them, although they are kind of I guess from the same sort of DNA in a certain sense. They're both single cut guitars made of mahogany with humbuckers in them. Both are kind of, they're different playbooks, whereas they still are a little bit of kind of cross-pollination between them, because I think you'd agree that some of the sounds in here, this would really suit to, nice ambient cleans, especially if you EQ'd it right, and, kind of hard rock riffs as well. But not to say that you can't do metal riffs on something like that. It's still a powerhouse in itself, but maybe just suited towards kind of more classic rock sort of sounds. So to kind of summarize the differences between an Eclipse and a Les Paul, as I mentioned previously, there's just a kind of few key factors that I would say to folk without really delving too deep into the specs. The thickness of the guitar, despite there being a thicker model of this and a thinner model of this available as well. The neck shape is going to be different, and of course the pickups are going to be different. Comparing the two of them is a little bit kind of apples and oranges as well, because they both do fit into their own sort of category, I would say. Now, if you were an exclusive metal player and you wanted a single cut, yeah, I'd probably push you in the direction of an Eclipse. And if you were a classic rock, kind of maybe blues player, yeah, I'd maybe push you in the direction of a Les Paul. But that's not to say that there's not a model on the other side for you that will really, really suit your needs. But tell us what you think. Would you be picking a Les Paul or an Eclipse? So let us know down in the comments, and whether give us a subscribe, because you can keep up with all the latest comparisons and all the latest new gear that's going to be dropping at Guitar Guitar. While you're down there, if you want to see some other comparisons as well, you should let us know, because we certainly do read all of the comments. But until next time, I've been Kieran, and this has just been a quick look at the differences between a Les Paul and an Eclipse. Have a great day.